Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:41 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. They call it guppy love. Biologists solve an evolution mystery. Science Daily, November 23rd, 2011. Guppies in the wild have evolved over at least 500,000 years ago, long enough for the male's correlation to have changed dramatically, yet a characteristic orange patch on male guppies has remained remarkably stable, though it could have become a redder or more yellow. Why has it stayed the same hue of orange over such a long period of time? And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:42 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In this case, the males have evolved back over and over again to the color that females prefer. Who noted that there are many examples in which there is less variation among populations of a species than life scientists would expect? And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:43 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The new study funded by the National Science Foundation provides a neat solution to a mystery that has puzzled me for many years. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:44 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The orange patches on male guppies are made up of two pigments, carotenoids, which they ingest in their diets, and are yellow, and drosapterins, which are red and which their bodies produce. Carotenoids are the same pigments that provide color to vegetables and fruits. Plants produce carotenoids, but animals generally cannot. Guppies obtain most of their carotenoids from algae. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:46 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Experiments in which she presented female guppies, reticulata, with a choice of males with low, medium, and high levels of drosterin, to which males they preferred. In her experiments, the females were given a wider range of pigment choices than they would find in the wilds. Who, as a graduate student in ecology, evolutionary biology, and laboratory at the time, and the currently UCLA postdoctoral scholar in human genetics, conducted more than 108 choice trials. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The females strongly prefer the intermediate males, those whose patches or spots with the right hue of orange, not too red and not too yellow. The females preferred the males with an intermediate drosterin levels and highly significant margin. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Males that are closer to the preferred hue probably have more offspring. If guppies were dependent only on the carotenoids for their orange coloration, one would expect to find large changes in color of their orange patches because the availability of algae varies by location. Guppies are native ones of the study. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:48 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Unlike the colorful guppies sold in pet stores, female guppies in the wild do not have bright coloration like orange patches. Males are not as ornate or as large as the pet store variety either. A pattern discovered 10 years ago, which was mysterious at first, is that in locations where more carotenoids are available in their diet, guppies produce more of the drosapterins. There is a very strong pattern of the ratio of these two kinds of pigment staying about the same. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:51 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. To human eyes, at least, as the proportion of carotenoids in the spots goes up, the spot look yellower, and as the proportion of drosapterins goes up, the spots look redder. By maintaining a very similar ratio of the two pigments across sites, the fish maintain a similar hue of orange from site to site. What is maintaining a similar pigment ratio across sites and across populations? The reason for the lack of variation is that genetic changes counteract environmental changes. The males have evolved differences in the drosapterin production that keep the hue relatively constant across environments. As a result of Carey's experiment, we now have good evidence that female mate choice is responsible for this pattern. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:53 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. While there are many cases in nature in which genetic variation is traits, mass environmental variation, there are very few examples where the cause is known. Originally assumed if there was variation among populations in drosapterin production, it would be the populations where carotenoid availability was lowest that were producing more of these synthetic pigments to compensate for the lack of carotenoids in their diet. But we found the opposite pattern. They are not using drosapterins in the carotenoid substitute. They are matching carotenoid levels with drosapterins. Why they are doing that was a mystery. The answer appears to be that it enables them to maintain a hue that female guppies prefer. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 1:03 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Astronomers find 18 new planets. Discovery is the largest collection of confirmed planets around stars more massive than the Sun. Science Daily, December 3, 2011. Discoveries of the new planet just keep coming and coming. Take, for instance, the 18 recently found by a team of astronomers led by Science California Institute of Technology, Caltech. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:04 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. It's the largest single announcement of planets in orbit around stars more massive than the Sun, aside from the discoveries made by Kepler mission. Assistant Professor of Astronomy at Caltech, the author on the team's paper, which was published in the December issue of the Astrophysical Journal of Supplement series. The Kepler mission is a space telescope that has so far identified more than 1,200 possible planets, though the majority of those have not yet been confirmed. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Using the Keck Observatory in Hawaii with the following observations using the McDonald and Fairborn observations in Texas and Arizona, respectively, the researchers surveyed about 300 stars. They focused on those dubbed retired type stars that are more than 1.5 times more massive than the Sun. These stars are just past the main stage of their life, hence retired, and are now puffing up into what's called a subgiant star. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:06 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. To look for planets, the astronomers search for stars of this type that wobble, which could be caused by the gravitational tug of an orbital planet. By searching for wobbly stars, spectra, Doppler shifts, the lengthening and contracting of the wavelength due to motion away from and toward the observer, the team found 18 planets with masses similar to Jupiter. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:07 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This new bounty marks a 50% increase in the number of known planets orbiting massive stars, and according to Johnson, provides a new valuable population of planetary systems for understanding how planets in our own solar system might form. The researchers say that the findings also lend further support to the theory that planets grow from seed particles that accumulate gas and dust in a disk surrounding a newborn star. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Sunday, December 3, 2011, 1:08 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. According to the theory, tiny particles start to clump together, eventually snowballing into a planet. If this is true sequence of events, the characteristic of the resulting planetary system, such as the number and size of the planets or their orbital shapes, will depend on the mass of the star. For instance, a more massive star would mean a bigger disk, which in turn would mean more material to produce a greater number of giant planets. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:09 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Another theory, planets form when large amounts of gas and dust in the disk spontaneously collapse into big, dense clumps that then become planets. But in this picture, it turns out that the mass of the star doesn't affect the kinds of planets that are produced. So far as the number of discovered planets has grown, astronomers are finding that stellar mass does seem to be important in determining the prevalence of giant planets. The newly discovered planets further support this pattern, and are therefore consistent with the theory, one stating that planets are born from seed particles. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. There's another interesting twist. Not only do we find Jupiter-like planets more frequently around massive stars, but we find them in wider orbits. If you took a sample of 18 planets around Sun-like stars, half of them would orbit close to their stars. But in the case of the new planets, all are further away, at least 0.7 astronomical units from their stars. 1 astronomical unit, AU, is the distance from Earth to the Sun. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:12 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In the system with Sun-like stars, gas giants like Jupiter require close orbits when they migrate toward their stars. According to the theories of planet formation, gas giants could only have formed far from their stars, where it is cold enough for their constituent gases and ice to exist. So far, gas giants to orbit nearer to their stars, certain gravitational interactions have to take place to fool these planets. Some other mechanism, perhaps the star magnetic field, has to kick in to stop them forming spiral into a fiery jet. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:16 a.m. Eastern Time. The question, Johnson said, is why this doesn't seem to happen, but so-called hot Jupiter orbiting massive stars, and whether that dearth is due to nature or nurture. In this nature explanation, Jupiter-like planets that orbit massive stars just wouldn't ever migrate inward. In the nurture interpretation, the planets would move in, but there would be nothing to prevent them from plunging into their stars. Or perhaps the stars evolve and swell up, consuming their planets, which is the case. According to Johnson, subgiants like the A stars they were looking at in the paper simply don't expand enough to gobble up hot Jupiters. So unless A stars have some unique characteristic that would prevent them from stopping migrating planets, such as a lacking of a magnetic field early in their lives, it looks like the nature explanation is the more plausible one. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The new batch of planets have yet another interesting pattern. Their orbits are mainly circular, while planets around Sun-like stars span a wide range of circular to elliptical paths. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, Saturday, December 3, 2011, 1:18 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. For Johnson, these discoveries have been a long time coming. This latest find, for instance, coming from an astronomical survey that he started while a graduate student. Because these planets have wide orbits, they can take a couple of years to make a single revolution, meaning that it can also take quite a few years before their stars' periodic wobbles become apparent to an observer. Now the discoveries are finally coming in. I liken it to a garden. You plant the seeds and put a lot of work into it. Then a decade in, your garden is big and flourishing. That's where I am right now. My garden is full of these big, bright, juicy tomatoes. These Jupiter-sized plants. And
good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2:50 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Like humans, the paper wasp has a special talent for learning faces. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011. Though paper wasps have brains less than a millionth the size of humans, they have evolved specialized face learning abilities analogous to the system used by humans, according to the University of Michigan evolutionary biologist and one of her graduate students. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2:51 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Wasps and humans have independently evolved similar and very specialized face learning mechanisms, despite the fact that everything about the way we see and the way our brains are structured is different. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2:53 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Biologists demonstrate that these wasps have surprisingly long memories and base their behavior on what they remember of previous social interactions with other wasps. Tested learning by training wasps to discriminate between two different images mounted inside a T maze, with one image displayed at each end of the top arm of the T. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2:55 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. 12 wasps were trained for 40 consecutive trials on each image type. The paired images included photos of normal paper wasp faces, photos of caterpillars, simple geometric patterns, and computer-altered wasp faces. A reward was consistently associated with one image in a pair. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 2:58 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The researchers found that the paper wasps, which are generalist visual predators of caterpillars, were able to differentiate between two unaltered peak, functus faces faster and more accurate than a pair of caterpillar photos, two different geometric patterns, or a pair of computer-altered wasp faces. They learned to pick the correct unaltered wasp face about 3/4 of the time. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:09 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Two simple black and white geometric patterns should have been easy for the wasp to distinguish, because the insect's compound eyes are good at detecting contrast and outlines. Yet the wasp learned complicated face images more rapidly than geometric patterns. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:11 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. At the same time introducing seemingly minor changes to a P. fuscatus facial image by using a photo editing program to remove a wasp antenna, for example, caused test subjects to perform much worse on the facial recognition test. This shows that the way they learn faces is different than the way they seem to be learning other patterns. They treat faces as different kind of thing. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:12 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Humans have a specialized face learning ability, and it turns out that this wasp that lives on the side of your house evolved an analogous system on its own. But it is important to note that we are not claiming the exact process by which wasps learn faces is the same as humans. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The ability to recognize individuals is important to a species like P. fuscatus. in which multiple queens establish communal nests and raise offspring cooperatively, but also compete to form a linear dominance hierarchy, remembering who they've already bested and been bested by keeps individuals from wasting energy on repeated aggressive encounters, and presumably promotes colony stability by reducing friction. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Differences in face learning between the two species cannot be attributed to general differences in learning, as both species learn to discriminate between pairs of artificial patterns and caterpillars at the same rate and with the same accuracy. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The evolutionary flexibility of specialized face learning is striking and suggests that specialized cognition may be a widespread adaptation to facilitate complex behavioral tasks such as individual recognition. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:01 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. And the dragonfish smell, the next generation of superstars to stir up our galaxy. Science Daily, December 2nd, 2011. 3 astronomers at the University of Toronto have found the most numerous batch of young, supermassive stars yet observed in our galaxy. Hundreds of thousands of stars, including several hundreds of the most massive kind, blue stars, dozens of times heavier than our sun. The light these newborn stars emit is so intense it has pushed out and heated the gas that gave birth, carving out a glowing halo shell about 100 light years across. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:04 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. These findings will be published in the December 20th issue of Astrophysical Journal's Letters. For the researchers, the next step is already clear. By studying these supermassive stars and the shell surrounding them, we hope to learn more about how energy is transmitted in such extreme environments. Such large nurseries of massive stars have been noticed in other galaxies, but were so far away that all stars are often blurred together on images taken by telescopes. This time, the massive stars are right here in our galaxy, and we can even count them individually. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:06 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Studying the individual stars will require intricate measurements. The cluster of bright stars is located nearly halfway across our galaxy, 30,000 light years away, and the line of sight is blocked by dust. All this dust made it difficult for us to figure out what type of stars they are. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:08 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. These stars are incredibly bright, yet they are very hard to see before the light from these stars can reach us. Most of it is absorbed by the intervening dust in our galaxy. This makes the brightest stars in the cluster appear as dim as smaller nearby stars. The fainter stars in the cluster appear so dim that they are not seen. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The researchers used a new technology telescope at the European Southern Observatory in Chile to collect whatever light they could from a few dozen stars. They measured in details how much light the stars emit in each color, and were finally able to confirm that at least a dozen stars in the cluster were of the most massive kind, some possibly 100 times more massive than our sun. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:21 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In fact, before turning a ground telescope toward the stars themselves, first notice the glow from the large shell of heated gas using the WMAP satellite, which is sensitive to microwaves between radio waves and visible light. To make an image of the gas shell being blown away and heated up, the researchers used the SPICER satellite, which works with infrared light between microwave and visible light. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:23 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Braham suggests the name dragonfish after comparing the infrared image of the celestial gas shell with Peter Shear's illustration of the deep-sea creature with the same name. The astronomical image resembles a dark gaping mouth-like shape, with teeth, 2 eyes, and a bright fin to the right. The mouth is the volume from which the gas has been cleared by the light of stars, pushed outward to form a shell that is particularly bright in spots corresponding to the eyes and the fin of the animal. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:25 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. We were able to see the effect of stars on their surrounding before seeing the stars directly. Braham says this would be like seeing lit faces and red cheeks from the heat of a campfire without being able to see the logs and flames themselves. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:26 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In the same way that red embers are cooler than the blue flame of the welding torch. The gas is cooler than what is heating it, and thus glows redder than blue stars, compared to the colors of a rainbow ranging from red to blue. Most of the light emitted via the heated gas is in fact redder than red, and thus infrared, less affected by gas or dust, and invisible to our naked eye, but not to appropriate telescope instruments. At the other end of the rainbow, the giant stars in the cluster are bluer than blue, and emit mostly in the ultraviolet, which is blocked by dust and thus not visible on the image. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:27 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. But we had to make sure what was at the heart of the shell. Raham says, now that the astronomical have identified several stars that are very massive, they know that these stars will burn their nuclear fuel relatively quickly in astronomical terms, within a few million years, thousands of times faster than for our sun, even though the giant blue stars contain dozens of times more fuel than our sun. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:29 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Still, if you thought the inside of the shell was empty, think again. Raham says, for each of the few hundred superstars the researchers may have spotted, there are thousands of average stars more akin to our sun. When the superstars have burned through their fuel, they will explode and release metals and other heavy atoms that may help form rocky planets around the smaller, quieter stars, perhaps providing the building blocks for life. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. There may be newer stars already forming in the eyes of the dragonfish. Raham says some areas in the shell glow particularly bright, and researchers think the gas there may have been compressed enough to ignite even more stars. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 4:33 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The gas now in the shell is the remainder of the very gas that gave birth to its stars. And there is a lot of it. The mother shell is more massive than the cluster of its babies, but with no mother anymore to keep them reined and via its mass and gravity, all the young stars may start wandering off in all directions. We found a rebel in the group, a runaway star, escaping from the group at high speed. Raham says we think the group is no longer tied together by gravity. However, the association will fly apart is something still not understood well. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Rise of temperature oxygen more complicated than previously thought. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011. The appearance of oxygen in Earth's atmosphere probably did not occur as a single event, but as a long series of starts and stops, according to an international team of researchers who investigated rock cores from the Far Deep Project. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:26 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The Fendoscania Arctic Russia drilling early Earth project Far Deep took place during the summer of 2007 near Murmansk and northwest region of Russia. The project, part of the International Continental Scientific Drilling Program, drilled a series of shallow 2-inch diameter cores, and by overlapping them created a record representing stone deposited during the Proterozoic eon, 25,000 million to 542 million years ago. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:28 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The researchers report in the December 1st issue of Science express the evaluation of these cores in comparison with cores and gammon previously analyzed by others. Supports the conclusion that great oxidation event played out over hundreds of millions of years. Oxygen levels gradually crossed the low atmospheric oxygen threshold for pyrite. An iron-sulfur mineral oxidation by 2,500 million years ago, and the loss of any mass-independent fractioned sulfur by 2,400 million years ago. The oxygen levels rose at an ever-increasing rate through the Paleoproterozoic, achieving about 1% of the present atmospheric level. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The definition of when an oxygen atmosphere occurred depends on which threshold you are looking for. It could be when pyrite becomes oxidized, when sulfur MIF disappears, or when deep crustal oxidation occurs, when the mass-independent fractionized sulfur disappeared, when the air on Earth was still not breathable by animal standards, when the red rock containing iron oxides appeared 2,300 million years ago, the air was still unbreathable. And
Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:32 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. At about 1% oxygen, the groundwater became strongly oxidized, making it possible for groundwater seeping through rocks to oxidize organic materials. Initially, any oxygen in the atmosphere produced by the photosynthesis of single-cell organisms was used up when sulfur, iron, and other elements oxidized. When sufficient oxygen accumulated in the atmosphere, it permeated the groundwater and began oxidizing varied organic material, oxidizing carbon to create carbon dioxide. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:34 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick now. The cores from the Far Deep project were compared with the Francilian samples from the Gabon using the ratio of carbon isotopes 13 and 12 to see if the evidence for high rates of oxygen accumulated existed worldwide. Both the Far Deep project's cores and the Francilian cores show large deposits of carbon in the form of fossilized petroleum. Both sets of cores also show similar changes in carbon-13 through time, indicating that the changes in carbon isotopes occurred worldwide, and oxygen levels throughout the atmosphere were high. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Although others have documented huge carbon isotope variations at later times in early history associated with stepwise increase in atmospheric oxygen, our results are less equivalent because we have many lines of data all pointing to the same thing. These indications include not only carbon-13 isotope profiles in organic matter from two widely separated locations, but also supporting profiles in limestones and no indication that processes occurring since that time have altered the signal. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Astronomers find fastest rotating star, Science Daily, December 5th, 2011. The European Southern Observatory Very Large Telescope has picked up the fastest rotating star found so far. The massive bright young star lies in our neighboring galaxy, the Large Magellanic Cloud, about 160,000 light-years from Earth. Astronomers think that it may have had a violent past and has been ejected from a double star system by its exploding companion. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. An international team of astronomers has been using ESO, a Very Large Telescope, at the Paranal Observatory in Chile to make a survey of the heaviest and brightest stars in the Tarantula Nebula. In the Large Magellanic Cloud, among many brilliant stars in the stellar industry, the team has spotted one called VFTS 1021 that is rotating at more than 2 million kilometers per hour, more than 300 times faster than the Sun, and very close to the point at which it would be torn apart due to centrifugal forces. VFTS 102 is the fastest rotating star known as to date. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:46 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The astronomers also found that the star, which is around 25 times the mass of the Sun, and about 100,000 times brighter, was moving through space at significantly different speeds from its neighbors. The remarkable rotation speed and unusual motion compared to the surrounding stars led us to wonder if this star had an unusual early life. We were suspicious. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This difference in speed can imply that VFTS 102 is a runaway star, a star that has been ejected from a double star system after its companion exploded as a supernova. This idea is supported by two further clues, a pulsar and an associated supernova remnant in its vicinity. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:49 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The team has developed a possible backstory for this very unusual star. It could have started life as one component of a binary star system. If the two stars were close, gas from the companion could have streamed over. In the process, the star would have spun faster and faster. This would explain one unusual fact, why it is rotating so fast. After a short lifetime of about 10 million years, the massive companion would have exploded as a supernova, which could explain the characteristic gas cloud known as a supernova remnant found nearby. The explosion would also have led to the ejection of the star and could explain the third anomaly, the difference between its speed and that of other stars in the region. As it collapsed, the massive companion would have turned into the pulsar that is observed today, and which completes the solution to the puzzle. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:51 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Although the astronomers cannot yet be sure that this is exactly what happened,
Dufton concludes, "This is a compelling story because it explains each of the unusual features that we've seen. The star is certainly showing us unexpected sides of the short but dramatic lives of the heaviest stars." And good evening, it's Dr. Wheel, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. NASA Kepler confirms its first planet inhabitable zone outside our solar system. Science Daily, December 5th, 2011. NASA Kepler mission has confirmed its first planet inhabitable zone, the region around a star where liquid water could exist on a planet's surface. Kepler also has discovered more than 1,000 new planet candidates, nearly doubling its previously known count. 10 of these candidates are near Earth size and orbit in the habitable zone of their host star. Candidates require follow-up observations to verify they are actual planets. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:57 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The newly confirmed planet Kepler-22 is the smallest yet found in orbit in the middle of the habitable zone of a star similar to our Sun. The planet is about 2.4 times the radius of Earth. Scientists don't yet know if Kepler-22 has a predominantly rocky, gaseous, or liquid composition, but its discovery is a step closer to finding Earth-like planets. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 9:58 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Previous research hinted at the existence of near-Earth-sized planets in habitable zones, but clear confirmation proved elusive. Two other small planets orbiting stars smaller and cooler than our Sun recently were confirmed on the very edges of the habitable zone, with orbits more closely resembling those of Venus and Mars. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:01 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Kepler discovers planets and planet candidates by measuring dips in the brightness of more than 150,000 stars to search for planets that cross in front or transit the stars. Kepler requires at least 3 transits to verify a signal as a planet. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:01 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Kepler-22b is located 600 light-years away. While the planet is larger than Earth, its orbit of 290 days around a Sun-like star resembles that of our world. The planet host star belongs to the same class as our Sun, although it is slightly smaller and cooler. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:02 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Of the 54 habitable zone planet candidates reported in February 2011, Kepler-22b is the first to be confirmed. This milestone will be published in the Astrophysical Journal. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:06 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. When the heat's on, some fish can cope. Certain tropical species have greater capacity to deal with rising sea temperatures than thought. Science Daily, December 5th, 2011. Australian scientists have discovered that some tropical fish have greater capacity to cope with rising sea temperatures than previously thought by adjusting over several generations. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Understanding the ability of species to acclimatize to rising temperatures over longer periods is critical for predicting the biological consequences of global warming. Yet it remains one of the least understood aspects of climate science. The scientists were seeking to discover how fish would cope with the elevated sea temperatures expected by 2050 and 2100. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. When we exposed dam cell fish to water temperature 1.5 degrees and 3 degrees above today's, there was a marked decline in their aerobic capacity as we'd expected. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. However, when we bred the fish for several generations at higher temperatures, we found that the second generation offspring had almost completely adjusted to higher temperatures. We were amazed, stunned even. It shows that some species can adjust faster to the rate of climate change. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. When one generation of dam cell fish experiences high temperature their whole life, the next generation is better able to cope with warmer water. We don't yet fully understand the mechanism involved, but it doesn't seem to be simple. Darwinian selection over a couple generations. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Instead, there has been a transmission of information between the generations that enables dam cell fish to adjust to higher water temperatures. The two temperatures used in the trial represent likely tropical ocean temperatures at the mid-century and by 2100 based on current trends and carbon dioxide emissions by humanity. A 3-degree increase in tropical ocean temperatures is the temperature predicted to occur if humanity's carbon dioxide emissions continue on their current trajectory. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:12 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The unusual findings suggest that some fish may have an innate ability to cope with increased sea temperature greater than previously thought. However, they caution it applies so far only to a single coral reef fish species and does not address the more complex issue of the survival of the coral habitat itself and the effects of warming on plankton and the food chains on which fish depend. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:14 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Also, there are likely to be penalties for fish that successfully adapt to higher temperatures. Initial observations suggest that the acclimatized offspring are on average smaller than their parents, and we still do not know if they are able to reproduce at the same rate as their predecessors. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Although the experiment has yet to run its full course, the researchers also say they do not expect the fish's ability to adjust to higher temperatures to continue past 3 degrees. At such a level of planetary warming, there will be profound changes in Earth's ecosystems affecting all forms of life, including humans. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. However, assuming humans manage to gradually bring global warming under control, it is important to understand how well animals and plants can cope with higher temperatures. In order to manage ecosystems for optimum survival of their species and the services they provide, the researchers provides an early insight into adaptive capacity of fish. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:17 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This study reveals that transgenerational acclimation is a potential important mechanism for coping with rapid climate change. Such acclimation could reduce the impact of warming temperatures and allow some fish populations to persist across their current range instead of having to move away in search of cooler waters. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:37 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Double T tsunami, double Japan destruction. Science Daily, December 5th, 2011. Researchers have discovered that the destructive T tsunami generated by the March 2011 earthquake was a long hypothesized merging T tsunami that doubled in intensity over rugged ocean ridges, amplifying its destructive power before reaching shore. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:38 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Satellites captured not just one wave front that day, but at least 2 which merged to form a single double high wave for out at sea. One capture of traveling long distances without losing its power. Ocean ridges and undersea mountain chains pushed the waves together, but only along certain directions from the T tsunami origin. The discovery helps explain how T tsunamis can cross ocean basins to cause massive destruction at some locations while leaving others unscathed, and raises hope that scientists may be able to improve T tsunami forecasts. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:39 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. It was 1 in 10 million chance that we were able to observe this double wave with satellites. The study principal investigated. Researchers have suspected for decades that such merging T tsunamis might have been responsible for the 1960 Kailian T tsunami that killed many in Japan and Hawaii, but nobody had definitely observed a merging T tsunami until now. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Monday, December 5th, 2011, 10:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. We were very lucky, not only in the timing of the satellite, but also to have access to such detailed GPS observed ground motion data from Japan to initiate Tony's T tsunami model and to validate the model results using the satellite data. Now we can see and use what we learned to make better forecasts of T tsunami danger in specific coastal regions anywhere in the world, depending on the location and the mechanism of an undersea quake. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:21 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Giant super Earths made of diamond are possible, studies suggest. Science Daily, December 5th, 2011. A planet made of diamonds may sound lovely, but you wouldn't want to live there. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. A new study suggests that some stars in the Milky Way could harbor carbon super-Earths, giant terrestrial planets that contain up to 50% diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:23 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. A new study suggests that some stars in the Milky Way could harbor carbon super-Earths, giant terrestrial planets that contain up to 50% diamond. but if they exist, those planets are likely devoid of life as we know it. The findings comes from a laboratory experiment of Ohio State University where researchers recreated the temperatures and pressures of Earth's lower mantle to study how diamonds form there. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The larger goal was to understand what happens to carbon inside planets and other solar systems, and whether solar systems that are rich in carbon could produce planets that are mostly made of diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The result. It is possible for planets that are as big as 15 times the mass of Earth to be half made of diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Our results are striking in that they suggest carbon-rich planets can form with a core and mantle just as Earth did. However, the cores would likely be very carbon-rich, much like steel, and the mantle would also be dominated by carbon, much in the form of diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:26 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Earth's core is mostly iron, and the mantle mostly silica-based minerals, a result of the elements that were present in the dust cloud that formed into our solar system. Planets that form in carbon-rich solar systems would have to follow a different chemical recipe, with direct consequences for the potential for life. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:27 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Earth's hot interior results in geothermal energy, making our planet hospitable. Diamonds transfer heat so readily, however, that a carbon super-Earth interior would quickly freeze. That means no geothermal energy, no plate tectonics, and ultimately no magnetic field or atmosphere. We think a diamond plate must be a very cold, dark place. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:28 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. She and former graduate student Jason Cabs suggest a tiny sample of iron, carbon, and oxygen to pressures of 65 gigapascals and temperatures of 2400 Kelvin, close to 9.5 million pounds per square inch, and 3,800 degrees Fahrenheit, conditions similar to Earth's deep interior. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. As they watch under the microscope, the oxygen bonded with the iron, creating iron oxide, a typical rust, and left behind pockets of pure carbon, which became diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Based on the data from the test, the researchers made computer models of Earth's interior and verified what geologists have long suspected. The diamond-rich layer likely exists in Earth's lower mantle, just above the core. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. That result wasn't surprising, but when they modeled what would happen when these results were applied to the composition of carbon super-Earth, they found that the planet could become very large, with iron and carbon merged, to form a kind of carbon steel in the core, and vast quantities of pure carbon in the mantle in the form of diamond. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The researchers discussed the implications for planetary science. To date, more than 500 planets have been discovered outside of our solar system, yet we know very little about their internal compositions. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. We are looking at how volatile elements like hydrogen and carbon interact inside the Earth, because when they bond with oxygen, you get atmospheres, you get oceans, you get life. The ultimate goal is to compile a suite of conditions that are necessary for an ocean to form on a planet. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:33 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Global carbon emission reach record 10 billion tons, threatening 2-degree target. Science Daily, December 4, 2011. Global carbon dioxide emissions from burning fossil fuels have increased by 49% in the last 2 decades, according to the latest figures by the international team, including researchers. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:34 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Published December 4th in the Journal of Nature Climate Change, the new analysis by the Global Carbon Project shows fossil fuel emissions increased by 5.9% in 2010 and 49% since 1990, the reference year for the Kyoto Protocol. On average, fossil fuel emissions have risen by 3.1% each year between 2000 and 2010, 3 times the rate of increase during the 1990s. They are projected to continue to increase by 3.1% in 2011. And
Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Total emissions which combine fossil fuel combustion, cement production, deforestation, and other land use emissions reached 10 billion tons of carbon in 2010 for the first time. Half of the emissions remained in the atmosphere, where CO2 concentration reached 389.6 parts per million. The remaining emissions were taken up by the ocean and land reservoirs in approximately equal proportions. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:36 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Rebounding from the global financial crisis of 2008 to 2009, when emissions temporarily decreased last year, high growth was caused by both emerging and developed economies. Rich countries continue to outsource part of their emissions to emerging economies through international trade. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:37 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Contributions to global emissions growth 2010 were largest from China, United States, India, Russia, Federation, and European Union. Emissions from the trade in goods and services produced in emerging economies but consumed in the West increased from 2.5% of the share of rich countries in 1990 to 16% in 2010. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:37 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In the UK, fossil fuel CO2 emissions grew 3.8% in 2010, but were 14% below their 1990 levels. However, emissions from the trade of goods and services grew from 5% of the emissions produced locally in 1990 to 46% in 2010, overcompensating the reductions in local emissions. Emissions in the UK were 20% above their 1990 levels when emissions from trade are taken into account. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:38 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Global CO2 emissions since 2000 are tracking the high end of the predictions and projections used by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which far exceed 2 degrees warming by 2100. Yet governments have pledged to keep warming below 2 degrees to avoid most dangerous aspects of climate change, such as widespread water stress, sea level rise, and increase in extreme climatic events. And it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:41 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Global winds could explain record rain as tornadoes. Science Daily, December 5, 2011. Two talks at the scientific conference this week will propose a common route for an enormous deluge in western Tennessee in May 2010. Historic outbreak of tornadoes centered on Alabama in April 2011. And evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:41 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Both events seem to be linked to a relatively rare coupling between the two polar and subtropical jet streams. But the fascinating part is that the change originates in the western Pacific about 9,000 miles away from the intense storms in the U.S. midsection. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The mechanism that causes the storms originates during spring or fall when organized complexes of tropical thunderstorms over Indonesia push the subtropical jet stream north, causing it to merge with the polar jet stream. The subtropical jet stream is a high-altitude band of wind that is normally located around 30 degrees north latitude. The polar jet stream is normally hundreds of miles to the north. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Jet streams in the northern hemisphere blow from the west at roughly 140 miles per hour and are surrounded by a circular whirlwind that looks something like a tornado pushes on its side. The circulating wind at the bottom of the jet stream blows from the south. On the north side, the circulating winds turn vertical, lifting and cooling the air until the water vapor condenses and feeds precipitation. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. A superjet and its circulating winds carry roughly twice as much energy as a typical jet stream. When these usually separate jet streams sit atop one another, there tends to be a very strong vertical circulation which produces clouds, precipitation, and tornadoes under the right conditions. And because the circulating wind in a superjet moving across the U.S. South picks up moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, the superjet gives a double whammy, more moisture and more lifting, producing than intense rain. That was the case in May 2010, when 10 to 20 inches of rain fell around Nashville. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. They had a lot of interesting aspects, brought an anomalous amount of moisture into the southeast and a hefty amount of rain. and that super strong jet stream could be traced back to conditions in the Western Pacific almost a week earlier. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. When the subtropical jet is pushed poleward under the influence of strong thunderstorms in the Western Pacific, it seems to result in these intense storms in the U.S. midsection. It is a really fascinating global connection that occurs 7 to 10 days later. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Martin also suggests that altered position of the subtropical jet stream may be linked to global warming. There is reason to believe that in a warmer climate, this kind of overlapping of the jet streams that can lead to a high-impact weather may be more frequent. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Historic weather data should tell us whether there has been a change in the frequency of these overlapping events, and whether that might be linked to a change in high-impact weather events. It is an interesting lead that could help us understand one possible mechanism by which a warmer climate could lead to an increase in severe weather. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:50 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Although hurricanes can be tracked for a week or more as they cross the Atlantic Ocean, weather phenomena seldom last long. If the tropical jet stream is rearranged and superimposed on top of the polar jet stream, it might be the mechanism that allows for this very long delay, a disturbance that can have discernible effect on severe weather thousands of miles downstream and a week or more later. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Today is Tuesday, December 6, 2011, 11:52 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Martin says that if the new analysis survives further study, it could contribute to severe weather forecasting. Though severe weather was forecast a day or two in advance of the deadly tornado outbreak in the southeast this April. Most tornado forecasts are made 12 or at most 24 hours in advance. That saves lives, but if we get the idea 5 or 6 days in advance that we should watch the position of the jet streams, we could say, hey, we have a pretty exciting week coming up and we have to be on high alert. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Madagascar dinosaur bone is most massive osteoderm ever found. Science Daily, November 29, 2011. What more can we learn about long-necked dinosaurs that we don't already know? A professor and her colleagues have found that Madagascar dinosaurs carried giant hollow bones in their skin that may have helped them survive the harsh environments they inhabited. This discovery has shed new light on the anatomy and function of these bones and the biggest animals to ever walk on land. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. A paper in Nature Communications about bizarre gigantic bones that grow in the skin of Raptosaurus, a species of huge plant-eating dinosaur from the island country located in the Indian Ocean of the southeastern coast of Africa. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:12 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This is the biggest osteoderm ever found for any backbone animal. The fact that it is hollow debunks all sorts of ideas about how these bones function in long-necked dinosaurs. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:13 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Osteoderms are bones embedded within the skin and are common among reptiles and some mammals. They create a unique pattern on the backs of crocodiles, the armor body covering on armadillos, and the distinctive plates of dinosaurs like Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Among the long-necked dinosaurs called sauropods, osteoderms are found in one globally distributed subgroup. The Titanosaura, for more than a century, paleontologists have been trying to figure out how these weird bones were distributed in the skin of the long-necked Titanosaurus, and what they might have been used for. Were they for prediction like for armadillos and crocodiles? Were they for display? Could they have helped regulate body temperature? And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Knowing something about the lives of these dinosaurs, particularly in the context of the drought-prone paleo-environment they lived in, tells us that the osteoderms may have been important for storing minerals, which allowed Reptosaurus to survive the rough times. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Instead of the hundreds of interlocking plates in living animals with osteoderms, Raptosaurus had only a few osteoderms in the skin. This means that they were likely to serve as protection or as body temperature regulators. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The discovery of these giant osteoderms provides new insights into what these bizarre structures may have done for the dinosaurs that had them. It helps us clarify what these Madagascar dinosaurs look like with their skin on. Our sample also includes both adult and juvenile osteoderms, which tells us how the osteoderms change over the lifespan of the dinosaur. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In the vicinity of the osteoderm, the skin of a Raptosaurus would have stretched, making it in places up to 7 times as thick as the elephant's skin. The bone also hollowed out over the course of the dinosaur's lifespan, so even though it was massive in the adult dinosaur, osteoderms would have actually been fairly lightweight. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:33 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. E. coli bacteria engineered to eat switchgrass and make transportation fuels. Science Daily, November 29, 2011. A milestone has been reached on the road to developing advanced biofuels that can respond to gasoline, diesel, and jet fuels with a domestically produced clean, green, renewable alternative. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Researchers with the U.S. Department of Energy, DOE, and Joint Energy Institute, JBEI, have engineered the first strains of Escherichia coli bacteria that can digest switchgrass biomass and synthesize its sugars into all 3 of those transportation fuels. What's more, the microbes are able to do this without any help from enzyme additives. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This work shows that we can reduce one of the most expensive parts of the biofuel production process, the addition of enzymes to depolymerize cellulose and hemicellulose into fermentable sugars. JBEI, and leader of this research, this will enable us to reduce fuel production costs by consolidating 2 steps, depolymerizing cellulose and hemicellulose into sugars, and fermenting the sugars into fuels, into a single step, or one-pot operation. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Kilsing, who also holds appointments with the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, Berkeley Lab, and the University of California, UC Berkeley, is a corresponding author of the paper in the preceding National Academy of Sciences, PNAS, that describes this work. The paper is titled Synthesis of 3 Advanced Biofuels from Ionic Liquid Pre-Treated Switchgrass Using Engineered Escherichia coli. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Advanced biofuels made from the lignoxycellulosic biomass of non-food crops and agricultural waste are widely believed to represent the best source of renewable liquid transportation fuels. Unlike ethanol, which in this century is produced from cornstarch, these advanced biofuels can replace gasoline on a gallon-for-gallon basis, and they can be used in today's engines and infrastructures. The biggest roadblock to an advanced biofuel highway is bringing the cost of producing these fuels down so they are economically competitive. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:55 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Unlike the simple sugar and corn grain, the cellulose and hemicellulose in plant biomass are difficult to extract in part because they are embedded in a tough woody material called lignin. Once extracted, these complex sugars must first be converted or hydrolyzed into simple sugars and then synthesized into fuels. One approach has been to pre-treat the biomass with an ionic liquid molten salt to dissolve it, then engineer a single microorganism that can both digest the dissolved biomass and produce hydrocarbons that have the properties of petrochemical fuels. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Tuesday, November 29, 2011, 11:57 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Our goal has been to put as much chemistry as we can into microbes. For advanced biofuels, this requires a microbe with pathways for hydrocarbon production and the biomass degrading capacity to secrete enzymes that efficiently hydrolyze cellulose and hemicellulose. We've now been able to engineer strains of Escherichia coli that can utilize both the cellulose and hemicellulose fractions of switchgrass that's been pre-treated with ionic liquids. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. E. coli bacteria normally cannot grow on switchgrass, but JBEI researchers engineered strains of the bacteria to express several enzymes that enable them to digest cellulose and hemicellulose, and use one or the other for growth. These cellulitic and hemicellulitic strains of E. coli, which can be combined as co-cultures on a sample of switchgrass, were further engineered with 3 metabolic pathways that enabled the E. coli to produce fuel substitute or precursor molecules suitable for gasoline, diesel, and jet engines. While this is not the first demonstration of E. coli producing gasoline and diesel from sugars, it is the first demonstration of E. coli producing all 3 forms of transportation fuels. Furthermore, it was done using switchgrass, which is among the most highly touted of the potential feedstocks for advanced biofuels. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:02 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: the magic is the ionic liquid pretreatment. If properly optimized, I suspect you could use ionic liquid pretreatment on any plant biomass and make it readily digestible by microbes. For us, it was the combination of biomass from the ionic liquid pretreatment with the engineered E. coli that enabled our success. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: the JBEI researchers also attribute the success of this work to the unparalleled genetic and metabolic traceability of E. coli, which over the years has been engineered to produce a wide range of chemical products. However, the researchers believe that this technique used in this demonstration should also be readily adapted to other microbes. This would open the door to the production of advanced biofuels from lignocellulosic feedbacks that are ecologically and economically appropriate to grow and harvest anywhere in the world. For the JBEI researchers, however, the next step is to increase the yields of the fuels they can synthesize from switchgrass. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:18 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: we already have hydrocarbon fuel production pathways that give far better yields than what we obtained with this demonstration, and these other pathways are very likely to be compatible with the biomass consumption pathways we've engineered into our E. coli. However, we need to find enzymes that can both digest more of the ionic liquid pretreatment biomass and be secreted by E. coli. We also need to work on optimizing the ionic liquid pretreatment steps to yield biomass that is even easier for the microbes to digest. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:43 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: look at that. Ravens gesture with their beaks to point out objects to each other. Science Daily, November 29th, 2011. Pointing and holding up objects in order to attract attention has so far only been observed in humans and our closest living relatives, the great apes. However, now provide the first evidence that ravens, corvus, corax, also use so-called deictic gestures in order to test the interest of a potential partner or to strengthen an already existing bond. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: from early childhood on, children frequently use distant gestures to draw the attention of adults to external objects. So-called deictic gestures such as pointing, look here, and holding up of objects, take this, are used by children for the first time at the age of 9 to 12 months, before they produce their first spoken words. Scientists believe that such gestures are based on relatively complex intelligence abilities and represent the starting point for the use of symbols and therefore also human language. Deictic gestures are thus milestones in the development of human speech. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: surprisingly, observations of comparable gestures in our closest living relatives, the great apes, are relatively rare. Chimpanzees National Park in Uganda, for example, use so-called directed scratches to indicate distinct spots on their bodies to be groomed. Deictic gestures thus represent an extremely rare form of communication, evolutionary, and have been suggested as confined to primates only. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:48 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: they observed that ravens use their beaks similar to hands to show and offer objects such as moss, stones, and twigs. These distinct gestures were predominantly aimed at partners of the opposite sex and resulted in frequent orientation of recipients to the object and the signalers. Subsequently, the ravens interacted with each other, for example by billing or joint manipulation of the object. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:53 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note: ravens are songbirds belonging to the corvid family like crows and magpies, and they surpass most of the other avian species in terms of intelligence. Their scores on various intelligence tests are similarly high than those of great apes. Ravens in particular can be characterized by complex intra-pair communication, relatively long time periods to form bonds, and relatively high degree of cooperation between partners. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, 12:56 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This new study shows that differentiated gestures have especially evolved in species with high degree of collaborative abilities. Gesture studies have too long focused on communicative skills of primates only. The mystery of the origins of human language, however, can only be solved if we look at the bigger picture and also consider the complexity of the communication systems of other animal groups. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 7:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Microbiological troubleshooting. 1. You are keenly interested in studying the metabolism of aromatic amino acids in Escherichia coli, particularly the synthesis of phenylalanine. To initiate your investigations, you decide to isolate phenylalanine oxotrophs by exposing wild-type E. coli to a mutagen. An oxotroph is a mutant that cannot grow on media lacking certain essential molecules that are normally synthesized by the wild-type strain. Hence, in this case, a phenylalanine oxotroph would require phenylalanine to be present in the medium in order to grow. A mutagen is a chemical or a physical agent that interacts with DNA and causes a mutagen to occur. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. You are assigned the task of finding mutants of E. coli that are tyrosine oxotrophs. In addition, you must isolate mutants that are double oxotrophs and that they require both tyrosine and phenylalanine to grow. How would you do this? Could you make use of the master plates employed in the previous question? Explain your answer. You successfully isolate tyrosine oxotrophs and phenylalanine tyrosine oxotrophs. Based on this, which of the above pathways presents a feasible model for the synthesis of these two aromatic amino acids? Explain your answer. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Astronomers discover a new exoplanet similar in size to Earth, planet Kepler 21b, found using space and ground-based observations. Science Daily, November 30th, 2011. The NASA Kepler mission is designed to survey a portion of our region of the Milky Way galaxy to discover Earth-sized planets in or near the habitable zone, the region in the planetary system where liquid water can exist, and determine how many of the billions of stars in our galaxy have such planets. It now has another planet to add to its growing list. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:31 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. A research team led by Steve Howell, NASA Ames Research Center, has shown that one of the brightest stars in the Kepler star field has a planet with radius only 1.6 out of Earth's radius and a mass no greater than 10 Earth masses, circling its parent star with a 2.8-day period. With such a short period, that such bright star, the team of over 65 astronomers and good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:33 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. With a period of only 2.8 days, the planet designed to Kepler 21b is only about 6 million kilometers away from its parent star. By comparison, Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, has a period of 88 days, and the distance from the Sun almost 10 times greater, or 57 million km. So the Kepler 21b is far hotter than any place human could venture. The team calculates that the temperature at the surface of the planet is about 1900 K and 2960 F, while the temperature is nowhere near the habitable zone in which liquid water might be found. The planet size is approaching that of Earth. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:34 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The parent star HD 179070 is quite similar to that of our Sun. Its mass is 1.3 solar masses, its radius is 1.9 solar radii, and its age, based on the cellular models, is 2.84 billion years, or a bit younger than the Sun's 4.6 billion years. HD 179070, spectral type F6 IV, a little hotter and brighter than the Sun. By astronomical standard, HD 179070 is fairly close, at a distance from the Sun of 352 light years, while it cannot be seen by the unaided eye. A small telescope can easily pick it out. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Thursday, December 1st, 2011, 11:36 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Part of the difficulty in detecting this planet is realization from Kepler mission that many stars show short-period brightness oscillations. The effect of these must be removed from the stellar light in order to uncover the regular but very small dimming caused by the planet passing from it. In front of the star, the Kepler mission observed this field for over 15 months, and the team combined the observations to enable them to detect this tiny periodic signal. They also relied on the spectroscopic and imaging data from the number of ground-based telescopes. And good Evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Body rebuilding researchers regenerate muscle tissue in mice. Science Daily, November 29, 2011. A team of scientists from the Polytechnic Institute have regenerated functional muscle tissue in mice, opening the door for new clinical therapy to treat people who suffer major muscle trauma. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:37 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The team used a novel protocol to coax mature human muscle cells into a stem cell-like state and grew those reprogrammed cells on those biopolymer microthreads. The threads were placed in a wound created by surgical removing a large section of leg muscle from a mouse. Over time, the threads and cells restored near normal function to the muscle, as reported in the paper Restoration of Skeletal Muscle Defects with adult human cells delivered on fibrin microthreads, published in the current issue of the Journal of Tissue Engineering Part 8. Surprisingly, microthreads, which were used simply as a scaffold to support the reprogrammed human cells, actually seem to accelerate the regeneration process by recruiting progenitor mouse muscle cells, suggesting that they alone could become a therapeutical tool for treating major muscle trauma. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:39 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Mammalian and skeletal muscles are able to repair small injuries caused by excessive exertion or minor trauma by recruiting muscle progenitor cells, which have not fully developed into muscle fibers, to the site of injury to rebuild the muscle. With major injuries, however, the body's first priority is to stop the bleeding, so scar tissue forms quickly at the wound site and overrides any muscle repair. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In the current study, the WPI Cell Thera team combined two novel technologies to try to prevent scar formation and prompt muscle regrowth. The first was a method they had developed previously for reprogramming mature human skin cells without employing viruses or extra genes. Cloning stem cells, 2009, July 21st. Reprogrammed cells express themselves, genes, and multiply in great numbers but don't differentiate into specific tissues. The second was the use of biopolymer microthreads as a scaffold to support the cells, developed by George Penn's, Associate Professor of Biomedical Engineering at WPI. The threads about the thickness of the human hair are made of fibrin, a protein that helps blood clot. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Researchers removed a portion of the tibialis anterior leg muscle in several mice. The muscle was chosen because injury to it affects the foot's range of motion but doesn't prevent the mice from walking. In some mice, injuries were left to heal on their own. In others, the wound was filled with bundles of microthreads seeded with reprogrammed human muscle cells. The untreated mice developed significant scarring at the injury site, with no restoration of muscle function. In sharp contrast, the mice that received the reprogrammed cells grew new muscle fibers and developed very little scarring. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:49 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Test done 10 weeks after implantation showed that the regeneration tibialis anterior muscle functioned with nearly as much strength as an uninjured muscle. The scientists expected that most of the regenerated muscle would be composed of human cells, since the implanted cells were from human muscle. Surprisingly, most of the new muscle fibers were made of mouse cells. The team theorized that the fibrin microthreads, which in their composition and shape are similar to muscle fibers, may encourage resident mouse progenitor cells to migrate into the wound and begin restoring the muscle tissue. They may also forestall the natural inflammatory response that leads to scarring after a major injury. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 7:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The surprise finding suggests that fibrin microthreads alone could be used to treat major muscle trauma, while research on enhancing regeneration with reprogrammed human cells continues. The contribution of the fibrin microthreads alone to wound healing should not be understood. The authors wrote, while this clearly points to the room for improving cell delivery techniques, it suggests that fibrin microthreads alone have tremendous potential for reducing fibrosis and remodeling large muscle injuries. Future studies will address more completely the capability of microthreads alone and determine at what point a combinational cell therapy is required for full functional tissue regeneration. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Archaeologists find new evidence of animal being introduced to prehistoric Caribbean. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011. An archaeological research team from North Carolina State University, University of Washington, and University of Florida has found one of the most diverse collections of prehistoric non-native animal remains in the Caribbean. On the tiny islands of Carriacou, the find contributes to our understanding of the culture of the region before the arrival of Columbus and suggests that Carriacou may have been more important than previously thought. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:21 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The researchers found evidence of 5 species that were introduced to Carriacou, found South America between 1,000 and 1,400 years ago. Only one of these species, the opossum, can still be found on the island. The other species were pig-like peccaries, armadillos, guinea pigs, small rodents called agoutis. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:23 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Researchers think the animals were used as sources of food. The scarcity of the remains in the few sites where they were found indicate that the animals were not for daily consumption. We suspect that they may have been foods eaten by people of high status or used in ritual events. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:23 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Looking for patterning in the distribution of animal remains in relation to where ritual artifacts and houses are found will help to test this idea. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Researchers found the animal remains at the 2 different sites on the island and used carbon dating techniques to determine their age. The opossum and the agouti were the most common, with the latter remains reflecting the longest presence, running from 8600 to 1400. Guinea pig remains had the shortest possible time frame, running from 8985 to 1030. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:27 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. These dates are consistent with similar findings on other Caribbean islands. However, while these species have been found on other islands, it is incredibly rare for one island to have remains from all of these species. For example, were previously unknown in this part of the Caribbean. The diversity is particularly surprising given that Carriacou is one of the smallest settled islands in the Caribbean. Through the number of remains is still not large, a pattern seen on other islands as well. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The combination of small geographical area and robust prehistoric animal diversity, along with evidence for artifact trade with other islands in South America, suggests that Carriacou may have found significance in the Columbian Caribbean as the nexus of interaction between island communities. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The animal remains are also significant because they were found in archaeological digs at well-documented prehistoric villages, and the remains themselves were dated, as opposed to just the materials such as the charcoal found near the remains. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The fact that the dates established by radiocarbon dating are consistent with the dates of associated materials from the villages means that the chronology is well established. In the future, we'd like to expand on the lesser excavated sites and to get more information on how common species may have been, which could shed light on the ecological impact and social importance of these species prehistorically. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:43 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Strange new species of ultra-red galaxy discovered. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011. In the distant reaches of the universe almost 13 billion light-years from Earth, a strange species of galaxy lay hidden, cloaked in dust and dimmed by the intervening distance. Even the Hubble Space Telescope couldn't spy on it. It took the revealing power of NASA's Spicer Space Telescope to uncover not one, but 4 remarkably red galaxies, and while astronomers can describe the members of this new species, they can't explain what makes them so ruddy. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:44 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Spicer succeeded where Hubble failed because Spicer is sensitive to infrared light. Light so red that it lies beyond the visible part of the spectrum. The newfound galaxies are more than 60 times brighter in the infrared than they are at the reddest colors Hubble can detect. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Galaxies can be very red for several reasons. They might be very dusty, they might contain many old red stars, or they might be very distant, in which case the expansion of the universe stretches their light to longer wavelengths and hence redder colors, a process known as redshifting. All 3 reasons seem to apply to the newfound galaxies. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. All 4 galaxies are grouped near each other.
and appear to be physically associated rather than being a chance lineup. Due to their great distance, we see them as they were only a billion years after the Big Bang, an era when the first galaxies formed. Hubble has shown us some of the first photogalaxies that formed, but nothing that looks like this. In a sense, these galaxies might be a missing link in galactic evolution. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:48 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Next research hopes to measure an accurate redshift for the galaxies, which will require more powerful instruments like the Large Millimeter Telescope or Atacama Large Millimeter Array. They also plan to search for more examples of this new species of extremely red galaxies. There's evidence for others in other regions of the sky. We'll analyze more Spitzer and Hubble observations to track them down. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:51 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Violent video games alter brain function in young men. Science Daily, November 30th, 2011. Sustained changes in the region of the brain associated with cognitive function and emotional control were found in young adult men after 1 week of playing violent video games, according to the study resulted presented by the Indiana University School of Medicine researchers at the annual meeting of the Radiological Society of North America. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:52 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This is the first time the IU researchers who have studied the effect of media violence for more than a decade have conducted an experimental study that showed a direct relationship between playing violent video games over an extended period of time and a subsequent change in brain regions associated with cognitive function and emotional control. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The controversy over whether or not violent video games are potentially harmful to players has been debated for many years, even making it as far as the Supreme Court in 2010. There has been little scientific evidence demonstrating that the games have a prolonged negative neurological effect. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:54 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. For the first time, we have found that a sample of randomly assigned young adults showed less activation in certain frontal brain regions following a week of playing violent video games at home. Radiology and imaging science. The affected brain regions are important for controlling emotional and aggressive behavior. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. For the first study, 28 healthy adult males aged 18 to 29 with low past exposure to violent video games were randomly assigned to two groups of 14. Members of the first group were instructed to play a shooting video game for 10 hours at home for 1 week and refrain from playing the following week. The second group did not play a video game at all during the 2-week period. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:57 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Each of the 28 men underwent functional magnetic resonance imaging fMRI analysis at the beginning of the study, with follow-up exams at 1 of the 2 weeks. During fMRI, the participants completed an emotional interference task, pressing buttons according to the color of visually presented words. Words indicating violent actions were interspersed among non-violent action words. In addition, the participants completed the cognitive inhibition counting task. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:58 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The results showed that after 1 week of violent video game play, the video game group members showed less activation in the left anterior frontal lobe during the emotional Stroop task and less activation in the anterior cingulate cortex during the counting Stroop task, compared to their baseline results and the results of the control group after 1 week. After the video game group refrained from gameplay for an additional week, the changes to the executive regions of the brain returned closer to the control group. Stroop test an individual's ability to control cognitive flexibility and attention. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 8:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. These findings indicate that violent video game play has a long-term effect on brain functioning. These effects may translate into behavioral changes over longer periods of game. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Some people can hallucinate colors at will. Science Daily, November 30th, 2011. Scientists at the University of Hull have found that some people have the ability to hallucinate colors at will, even without the help of hypnosis. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:06 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The study published this week in the Journal of Consciousness and Cognition was carried out in the Department of Psychology at the University of Hull. We focused on the group of people that had shown themselves to be highly suggestible in hypnosis. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:07 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The subjects were asked to look at a series of monochrome patterns and to see colors in them. They were tested under hypnosis and without hypnosis, and both times reported that they were able to see colors. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:07 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Individual reactions to the patterns were also captured using an MRI scanner, which enabled the researchers to monitor differences in brain activity between the suggestible and non-suggestible subjects. The results of the research showed significant changes in brain activity in the areas of the brain responsible for visual perception among the suggestible subjects only. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The ability to change experience at will can be very useful. Research has shown that hypnotic suggestions can be used to block pain and increase the effectiveness of psychotherapy. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. It has always been assumed that hypnosis was needed for these effects to occur, but the new study suggests that this is not true. Although hypnosis does not seem to heighten the subject's ability to see color, the suggestible subjects were also able to see colors and change their brain activity even without the help of hypnosis. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The MRI scans also showed clearly that although it was not necessary for the subjects to be under hypnosis to be able to perceive colors in the test, it was evident that the hypnosis increased the ability of the subjects to experience these effects. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Many people are afraid of hypnosis, although it appears to be very effective in helping with certain medical interventions, particularly pain control. The work we have been doing shows that certain people may benefit from suggestion without the need for hypnosis. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:12 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The study, which was partially funded by the BBC, used a control group form or less of suggestible people or people less likely to respond to hypnosis. It was found that this group of people were not able to hallucinate color. And again, these reported results were supported by MRI scans. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. New switch could improve electronics. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh have invented a new type of electronic switch that performs electronic logic functions within a single molecule. The incorporation of such a single molecule elements could enable smaller, faster, and more energy-efficient electronics. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The switch was discovered by experimenting with the rotation of a triangular cluster of 3 metal atoms held together by a nitrogen atom, which is enclosed entirely within a cage made up of entirely carbon atoms. Patek and his team found that the metal clusters encapsulated within a hollow carbon cage could rotate between several structures under the simulation of electrons. This rotation changes the molecule's ability to conduct an electric current, thereby switching among multiple logic states, without changing the spherical shape of the carbon cage. Patek says this concept also protects the molecule so it can function without influence from the outside chemicals. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Because of their constant spherical shape, the prototype molecule switches can be integrated as atom-like building blocks, the size of the 1 nanometer 100,000 times smaller than the diameter of the human hair, into massively parallel computing architectures. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 9:21 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The prototype was demonstrated using an SC3N at C80 molecule sandwiched between 2 electrodes consisting of an atomically flat copper oxide substrate and an atomically sharp tungsten tip. The applying a voltage pulse, equilateral triangle shape SC3N could be rotated predictably among 6 logic states. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:08 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Astronomers look to neighboring galaxy for star formation insight. Science Daily, November 30th, 2011. An international team of astronomers has mapped and detailed the star-birthing regions of the nearest star-forming galaxy to our own, a step toward understanding the conditions surrounding star creation. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The Large Magellantic Cloud, LMC, is a popular galaxy among astronomers both for its nearness to our Milky Way and for the spectacular view it provides, a big picture vista impossible to capture of our own galaxy. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. If you imagine a galaxy being a disk, the LMC is titled Among the Face On, so we can look down on it, which gives us a very clear view of what's going on inside. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:11 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Although astronomers have a working theory of how individual stars form, they know very little about what triggers the process of
or the environmental conditions that are optimal for star birth. Wong's team focused on areas called molecular clouds, which are dense patches of gas, primarily molecular hydrogen, where stars are born. By studying these molecular clouds and their relationship to new stars in the galaxy, the team hopes to learn more about the metamorphosis of gas clouds into stars. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:12 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. When to study star formation, an important question is, what is the environment doing? How does the location of star formation reflect the conditions of what environment? There is no better place to study a wider environment than the LMC. Good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Using a 22-meter diameter radio telescope in Australia, the astronomers mapped more than 100 molecular clouds in the LMC and estimated their sizes and masses, identifying regions with ample material for making stars. This seemingly simple task engendered a surprising find. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:16 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Conventional wisdom states that most of the molecular gas mass in the galaxy is apportioned to a few large clouds. However, Wong's team found many more low-mass clouds than they expected. So many, in fact, that a majority of the dense gas may be sprinkled across the galaxy in these small molecular clouds, rather than clumped together in a few large blobs. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. We thought that the big clouds hog most of the mass. Wong said, what we found in the galaxy, it appears that the playing field is more level. The low-mass clouds are quite numerous, and they actually contribute a significant amount of the mass. This provides the first evidence that the common wisdom about molecular clouds may not apply here. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Large numbers of these relatively low-mass clouds means that star-forming conditions in the LMC may be relatively widespread and easy to achieve. The findings raise some interesting questions about why some galaxies stop their star formation, while others have continued it. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. To understand the connection between molecular clouds and star formation, the team compared their molecular cloud maps to map infrared radiation, which reveal where young stars are heating cosmic dust. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. For the comparison, they exploited a carefully selected sample of newborn heavy stars compiled by U of I astronomy professor, who also were co-authors of the paper. These stars are so young that they are still deeply embedded in cocoons of gas and dust. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:21 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. It turns out that there's actually very nice correspondence between these young massive stars and molecular clouds. That's not entirely surprising, but it is reassuring. We assume that these stars have to form in molecular clouds, and it tells us that the molecular clouds do hang around long, enough for us to see them associate with these massive young stars. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:24 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Wong hopes to continue to study the relationship between molecular clouds and star formation in greater detail. If researchers can determine the relative ages of young stars, they can correlate these against molecular clouds to figure out which clouds have star formation, how long the clouds live, and what eventually leads to their destruction. They also plan to use a newly constructed area of telescopes in Chile to see the cloud environment at a higher resolution, pinpointing exactly where inside the molecular cloud star formation will occur. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. This study provides us with our most detailed view of an entire population of clouds in another galaxy. We can say with great confidence that these clouds are where the stars form, but we are still trying to figure out why they have the properties they do. And good evening, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:58 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Drop in carbon dioxide levels led to polar ice sheet study finds. Science Daily, December 1st, 2011, a drop in carbon dioxide appears to be the driving force that led to the Antarctic ice sheet formation, according to a recent study led by scientists at Yale, Purdue University, molecules from ancient algae found in deep-sea core samples. And this is Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Friday, December 2nd, 2011, 11:29 p.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The role key of the greenhouse gas in one of the biggest climate events in Earth's history supports carbon dioxide importance in past climate change and implicates it as a significant force in present and future climate. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The team pinpointed the threshold for low levels of carbon dioxide below which an ice sheet forms in the South Pole, but how much the greenhouse gas must increase before the ice sheet melts, which is a relevant question for the future, remains a mystery. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It is Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Professor of Earth and Atmospheric Science, Purdue, and roughly 40% decrease in carbon dioxide occurred prior to and during the rapid formation of mile-thick ice sheet over the Antarctic approximately 34 million years ago. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Saturday, 3rd, 2011, 12:02 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The evidence falls in line with what we would expect in carbon dioxide in the main dial that governs global climate. If we crank it up or down, there is dramatic changes. We went from a warm world without ice to a cooler world with an ice sheet overnight in geological terms because of fluctuations in carbon dioxide levels. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:05 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. For 100 million years prior to the cooling, in which occurred at the end of the Eocene Epoch, Earth was warm and wet. Mammals and even reptiles and amphibians inhabited the North and South Poles, which then had subtropical climates. Then over a span of about 100,000 years, temperatures fell dramatically. Many species of animals became extinct. Ice-covered Antarctica and sea levels fell as the Oligocene approach began. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:08 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The onset of Antarctica ice is the mother of all climate tipping points. Recognizing the primary role carbon dioxide change played in altering global climate is a fundamentally important observation. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:08 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. There has been much scientific discussion about the sudden cooling, but until now there has not been much evidence and solid data to tell what happened. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:09 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The team found a tipping point in atmospheric carbon dioxide levels for cooling that initiates ice sheet formation, and it was about 600 parts per million. Prior to the levels dropping this low, it was too warm for the ice sheet to form. At Earth's current level of around 390 parts per million, the environment is such that an ice sheet remains, but carbon dioxide levels and temperatures are increasing. The world will likely reach levels between 550 and 1,000 parts per million by 2100. Melting an ice sheet is a different process than its initiation, and it is not known what level would cause the ice sheet to melt away completely. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. This Sunday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:12 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The system is not linear, and there may be different threshold for melting the ice sheet. But if we continue on our current path of warming, we will eventually reach that tipping point. Of course, after we cross that threshold, it will still take many thousands of years to melt an ice sheet. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:13 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The team studied geochemical remnants of ancient algae from seabed cores collected by drilling in deep ocean sediments and crust as part of the National Science Foundation Integrated Ocean Drilling Program. The biochemical molecules present in algae vary depending on the temperature, nutrients, and amount of dissolved carbon dioxide present in the ocean water. These molecules are well preserved even after many millions of years and can be used to reconstruct the key environment variables at the time, including carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. It's Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:14 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Samples from 2 sites in the tropical Atlantic Ocean were the main focus of the study because this area was stable at that point in Earth's history and had little upwelling, which brings carbon dioxide from the ocean floor to the surface and could skew measurements of atmospheric carbon dioxide. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:16 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In reevaluating previous estimates of atmospheric carbon dioxide levels using deep-sea core samples, the team found that continuous data from a stable area of the ocean is necessary for accurate results. Data generated from a mix of sites throughout the world's ocean cause inaccuracies due to the variations in nutrients present in different locations. This explained conflicting results from earlier papers based on the deep-sea samples that suggested carbon dioxide increased during the formation of the ice sheet. And good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:17 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. Constraints on temperature and nutrient concentrations were achieved through modeling of past circulation temperature and nutrient distributions performed. Atmospheric Research Community Climate System Model 3, one of the same models used to predict future climates, used the UVIC Earth System Climate Model developed at the University of Victoria, British Columbia. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:21 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. The models got it just about right and provided results that matched the information obtained from the core samples. This was an important validation of the models. If they are able to produce results that match the past, then we can have more confidence in their ability to predict future scenarios. Good morning, it's Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD. Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:22 a.m. Eastern Time. Quick note. In 2004, the team used evidence from deep-sea core samples to challenge the long-standing theory that the ice sheet developed because of the shift from warm to cool ocean currents millions of years ago. The team found that the cold current, not the warm one that had been theorized, was flowing past the Antarctica coast for millions of years before the ice sheet developed. And good morning, Dr. Will, CBMD, PhD, this Saturday, December 3rd, 2011, 12:23 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, it seems that the polar ice sheet shaped our modern climate, but we don't have much hard data on the specifics of how. It is important to know by how much it cools the planet and how much warmer the planet would get without an ice sheet.